programme what happened in Bristol on Sunday. And I thought the YouGov poll that came out late last night, quite a big sample from nearly 4,500 people, it asked whether they thought that the Edward Colston statue should be removed, shouldn't be removed, and if it was to be removed, was the way in which it was done the right way? Only 13% of respondents in that poll, 13% of respondents thought that tearing down the statue the way it was done was the right thing to do. So it's a pretty small minority out there that think it was. And yet, what has been, to me, so astonishing with the mainstream media coverage of this is it's almost been on some channels wall to wall saying they think it was the right thing to have done. And I find that really astonishing. And I think what you will see, what we're seeing already, is for many, many quite well-known television programmes, their viewing figures are going down, and they will continue to, because they're not actually quite reflecting both sides of this argument. They're all on one side, and on this particular issue of Colston and how it was done, a minority. But into this today, Sadiq Khan has made quite a big play. And to go through exactly what he said, I've got Matthew Thompson, LBC's senior reporter. Matthew, he plans to set up a commission, and we could see a very different London.
We could indeed, Nigel. So Sadiq Khan has said that essentially all statues in London will be reviewed by this new commission to decide whether or not they should be taken down. It's a new commission for diversity in the public realm, rather grand title. And it's going to review not just statues, but also street names, the names of buildings, plaques, and those that have links to slavery, we think, stand a chance of being removed. Now, the commission will also decide who should be celebrated, and then it will make recommendations about which landmarks could be removed and who should replace them. As to who will be on the new commission, it'll include historians as well as arts council and community leaders. But the obvious question, Nigel, is who should be removed? And that's a question that was put to the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, earlier today.
I suspect the recommendations of the commission may well be some of the statues be taken down. For example, some of the slavers for whom there are statues across our city. I suspect the commission may come back and say it's not appropriate to be memorialising, to be celebrating these people. They're not icons. And they may well come back and say our recommendation is to take these statues down. But it's a discussion we should have.
But of course, Nigel, the really obvious question to that is where do you draw the line? I mean, we know, for example, that Winston Churchill expressed some racist views. We know that Mahatma Gandhi expressed some racist views, and also had at best a questionable sex life when it came to teenage girls, for example. So those two men have statues in Parliament Square. Should those come down? Where do you draw the line? Now, Sadiq Khan was pushed on that question earlier today. He wouldn't name any statues that should come down. He said it would be a matter for this new commission, but he said that there were clearly statues that were commemorating slavers in the capital, and that perhaps those would be the target of the new commission.
Thank you very much indeed, Matthew. Well, look, folks, it's been pre-decided. Just look at the name of it. Diversity in the public realm. You know, Sadiq Khan has said that he wants statues to see more representation from black minority ethnic communities, women, gay and transgender people, and people with disabilities. But the point about the statues in London, the point about the name of some of the squares, the names of some of the buildings, the names of many of the streets, is they're not about London today. They're about London in Victorian times. They're about London in the 17th century. Many of them are about London in centuries that go back way, way before that. And this is an attempt, in my view, this is an attempt to erase large chunks of history, to rewrite large chunks of history. And I think it is personally very, very dangerous already. The speculation that the Tate galleries will have to be renamed because, of course, it was the sugar industrialist Henry Tate who gave his money towards it. And on the back of Sadiq Khan, a new website's been set up called Topple the Racists, set up giving a roadmap of all the statues around the country they want to see removed. Cecil Rhodes is one of them. His statue outside Oriel College in Oxford. Cecil Rhodes had been at that college himself, had left it a large amount of money when he died. And the Rhodes scholarships, of course, Perhaps their most famous pupil was Bill Clinton, who went on to become President of the United States of America. There is, as we speak, a protest going on at Oriel College, Oxford now. They're also looking to get rid of Sir Francis Drake on Plymouth Hoe, the man who wouldn't interrupt his game of bowls and then went off to beat the Spanish Armada. He clearly has to go, and many, many others. I mean, even Earl Grey, who was Prime Minister when slavery was abolished. Oh, Sir Robert Peel, his statue in Leeds, the man who invented the police force, he, of course, has got to go. This is now completely out of control. This particular website, set up by people who are experts at this sort of thing. They've been involved in the Stop the Trump coalition, in stopping Brexit, and, they're good at it. Of that, there is no question. They're well funded. Of that, there is no question. Look, I think if you are going to rename streets or rename squares or buildings or remove statues and replace them, I think there is an argument you can do it. But I don't think Sadiq Khan and a couple of mates and cronies on a committee can themselves make this decision. And I certainly don't think mob rule, such as we saw in Bristol, is the way to do, frankly, anything. You can make democratic decisions to change how your towns look and how you want to reflect history. But it must be done democratically. It cannot be done by the mob. But I would suggest to you, from me, that actually removing historical statues of this extraordinary city of London, which, if we go back to the time of the Romans and the Ford and everything else, has a very, very deep, rich history. People lived lives years ago that we wouldn't choose to live now. And in 100 years' time, people will look back on us as barbarians. For some reason, there's a current crop of politicians seem to think they're superior to humanity in the rest of history. So let me put it to you. Is it right that historical statues in London should be removed? And if they are, surely it should follow some form of election. Let's go to Rudy.